Did you know that this boat Lin and Chihiro ride is based on a real-life boat found in the island of Sado? And that the Japanese have a name for a special connection between a human and a god, or kami? Do you know why Haku tells Chihiro to not look back until she is out of the spirit world? Or why the tunnel at the end of the movie looks radically different from the one at the start? Have you heard of the theory that Haku is Chihiro's brother? Do you think this theory is based? On this video, I will conclude my deep dive into the Spirited Away movie, and if you watch until the end, you will be able to call yourself a Ghibli specialist, I guarantee. Hello everyone, good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Today is a new day, so I will be finishing the Spirited Away review. This is the fourth and last part. If you haven't seen the other ones, please do so before watching this one. Last time, Chihiro helped Haku get rid of the Shikigami, and she is now trying to reach Yubaba's headquarters, where Haku is currently dying. When Chihiro reaches Yubaba's headquarters, she is forced to hide in Boh's home, which is this giant saloon packed with an overwhelming amount of toys and cushions. This room is fully padded, which alludes to overprotection, and places from the outside world decorate the walls. As we will see, these are the only glimpses Boh is allowed to the exterior, since he never leaves the room. Boh's short journey mirrors Chihiro's in a way. At the start of the movie, Chihiro and Boh are spoiled and sheltered, although Boh's case is more extreme than Chihiro's, and neither Chihiro nor Boh are capable of doing anything independently. They also don't know how to ask for what they want. Chihiro whines and Boh demands. Chihiro's challenge is to be separated from her parents and to survive in this unknown land. Boh's challenge is to step into the outside world for the first time, and although one might seem easier and less dangerous than the other, both completely transform the ones who go through them. Boh can now stand on his two legs and is eager to explore the outside world upon realization that it isn't so scary as he previously was made to believe by Yubaba. The two of them are ready to enter the next stage of their lives. Chihiro is ready to start developing into a grown-up, and Boh is ready to turn into a child. Boh's transformation has two catalysts, Zeniba and Chihiro. When Chihiro refuses to play with Boh and scares him into letting her go, he gives Sage, and if it is true that he is being nothing but unpleasant so far, he is actually already starting to show some signs of growth. For one, he left the room, and he states, "I am not afraid of blood," when he clearly was a few minutes ago. He's challenging the views that her mother bestowed upon him, that the outside world has germs that will make him sick, something she probably believes herself. Zeniba then turns him into a mouse. This can seem like a cruelty from her part, but as his aunt, she is merely giving Boh the means for him to escape from the claws of her overprotective mother for a while. By joining Chihiro in her adventure, Boh learns from her actions and ends up admiring her quite a bit. Haku and Chihiro end up escaping from Yubaba's office through the bottomless pit, eventually arriving to Kamaji's workplace. Kamaji tells Chihiro something inside Haku is killing him, so Chihiro gets the idea of feeding him part of the bitter dumpling, hoping it will help somewhat. For this scene, animators visited a veterinarian's office and studied the opening of a dog's jaw. This is why it feels so realistic. The dumping makes Haku vomit not only Zeniba's seal, but also a black slug that Chihiro smashes with her foot. We later find out that this slug didn't represent Zeniba's curse, but was rather a spell put on Haku by Yubaba that allowed her to control him. After Chihiro steps on the slug, she gets her hands together and Kamaji makes a cutting gesture. This is called cutting the line, and it's a good luck charm to expel impurity. It can be done after you touch something dirty, like dog poop. I got to learn about it from Miyazaki himself by watching a video on voice acting in Spirited Away, and I do recommend you go watch it as well, because it is a lot of fun. There are two videos actually. Chihiro expresses her desire to apologize to Zeniba for Haku and to give her back her seal, and in response, Kamaji grants her the train tickets he had saved up for years. He tells her that Zeniba lives in the 6th stop, Swamp Bottom, and that she will have to return by foot since the train only goes one way. The number 6 is considered an unlucky number in Japan, for it is very similar to the kanji mu, the kanji for nothingness. It paints Zeniba's place as an ominous place, which can't be further from the truth, but at this point Chihiro doesn't know that. As for why the train only goes one way, there are some speculations, but it is probably to symbolize the passage of time that also only goes one way. Before parting, Chihiro has one more duty to fulfill, to deal with the consequences of letting No Face in, seeing as Yubaba is aware of Chihiro's culpability. Chihiro recognizes her fault with maturity and lets herself be led to No Face. The reaction of the Bathhouse workers to seeing Chihiro being shoved into a room with a giant monster inside is interesting. Some frown when she passes through, which is understandable because they were just told that she let his cannibal inside their space and they are scared and upset. Still, there is some that show a lingering concern, as when one of them asks Yubaba, will she be alright all by herself? At first Chihiro doesn't talk, she just looks at No Face sternly, while they keep offering her stuff, still trying to understand what she wants. Chihiro ignores their questions and uses her words wisely. Just as with Yubaba earlier in the film, she doesn't let herself get swayed. She explains very bluntly there is a place that she has to go and proceeds to ask, where is her home? Don't you have a mother and father? No Face recoils and admits their loneliness, and being reminded of said loneliness springs them into almost devouring Chihiro by force. Boh, in his mouse form, saves her by biting their hand. Chihiro then gives the rest of the bitter dumpling to No Face, who gets enraged upon tasting it and suffering its effects. Chihiro flees, all the while trying to make No Face follow her to outside the bathhouse, since she already understood that being under the influence of the place is causing their behavior. Sure enough, she is right. After regurgitating all the food they were given, as well as the 3 workers he ingested, No Face returns to their natural form, and obediently follows Chihiro, doing everything she tells them. This is why so many people compare No Face to a child, who sees in Chihiro a guardian. They are dependent, naive on how interactions work, they learn through observation, and are easily influenced by the ones who surround them. This little boat, in which Lin awaits Chihiro to lead her to the train station, is called a taraibune, and they are traditional Japanese fishing boats that can be found mainly in the Sado Island. Their design arose from the need to fish in the narrow coves formed by earthquakes. Originally, they were made of cedar wood and bamboo. Even nowadays, you can experience traveling on one if you go to Sado. One thing that always bothered me in Spirited Away is how Kamaji gives Chihiro all his 4 tickets, when she supposedly only needs 1, 3 if she insists in bringing Boh and Yubaba's bird along. The 4th ticket turns out to be useful since he can now bring No Face along, but wouldn't it be common sense for Kamaji to keep the last ticket for himself? Is he giving Chihiro all the tickets for extra insurance? Or might it be that the tickets can't be separated, so she was always going to have to use all of them? Is this Kamaji giving up on the illusion he had been clinging to of ever escaping the bathhouse? This little part does confuse me a lot, so if you have the answers, please share with me. I will be all ears. Concerning the train scene, Miyazaki says on an interview, I remember the first time I took the train alone, and what my feelings were at the time. To bring those feelings across in this scene, it was important to not have a view through the window of the train, like mountains or a forest. Most people who can remember the first time they took the train all by themselves remember absolutely nothing of the landscapes outside the train, because they are so focused on the ride itself. So to express that, there had to be no view from the train. But I had created the conditions for it in the previous scenes, when it rains and the landscape is covered by water as a result. During the ride, the train passes through a station by the name of Numahara. I tried to understand if this was a reference to something. There exists in Hokkaido a mount by the name of Numanohara, but other than that, I couldn't find any connection between this place and the train station, so it is very likely a coincidence. Also on this train stop, there is a girl standing near the fence, and some say that this girl is Setsuko from Grave of the Fireflies, that is waiting on the train station for her brother to arrive. However, if you look at this image, you can see that Setsuko and this girl on the train do not really look alike. No, not only they do not have the same clothes, but the girl on the left seems to be a bit taller, a little bit older than Setsuko. So I think this is a baseless theory. While Chihiro is traveling, Haku awakes and understands he needs to defend Chihiro's parents from Yubaba now that Chihiro is gone. Sure enough, Yubaba is at that very moment ordering the foreman, Aogaeru, and other important figure to go and turn Chihiro's parents into bacon. The three subordinates are very reluctant though, and are openly defending Chihiro. Haku enters the room and points out to Yubaba that she lost something precious. The fact that she immediately starts analyzing the gold tells a lot about how our mind works. Nonetheless, when she realizes Boh is missing, she completely panics. Haku promises to bring him back with the condition that she lets Chihiro and her parents return to their world, and she has no choice but to accept. Back to Chihiro, she arrives at Swamp Bottom and starts following the road that crosses the swamp. Midway, she and her friends get received by a Tsukumogami, which is a tool kami. The idea behind this kami is that a tool can gain the power to change themselves or to become a kami once they become significantly old, around 100 years old. But some people say that when the sources say 100 years old, this just means a really great amount of years. In any case, this object that comes to receive them is a lamp, and some say that this lamp is a possible reference to the logo of Pixar, but Miyazaki never confirmed or denied. Zeniba's cottage, just like Yubaba's office, has a remarkable European design. In this way, Miyazaki balances his commentary on Western influence on Japan. Western influence is not all bad, it is as bad when badly applied, when it leads to destruction and consumerism. If integrated with care, it can lead to enrichment. We saw the bad side of Western influence with Yubaba, and now we are seeing the good side with Zeniba, two sides of the same coin. Zeniba notices that the seal's curse has already been broken, and shows surprise that Chihiro didn't feel bad while holding the object. I think this has to do with Chihiro's intentions, as she never meant to keep the seal for herself, but wanted instead to return it to Zeniba. Chihiro seeks advice from Zeniba on how she shall proceed, and reveals that she feels that she knows Haku from very long ago. On the English version of the movie, Zeniba answers with, "Once you have met someone, you never really forget them." But in the Japanese version, the meaning is broader. Nothing that happens is ever forgotten, even if you can't remember it. This distinction between the two sentences will be important, so keep it in mind. When Chihiro expresses her desire to leave, Zeniba gives her a hair tie made out of thread that her friends help spinning, and states that it will protect her. I don't think I have to explain the symbolism behind the hair tie and the way it was made, because it is very clear. But I do want to point out that the hair tie does resist the passage through the tunnel when Chihiro returns to the human world. While gifting Chihiro this hair tie, Zeniba is already thinking about Chihiro's future outside of the spirit world, and she is guaranteeing that Chihiro will be left with something when she leaves. Tie this with the comment from earlier, and what you get is that if Chihiro leaves the spirit world, all her memories will be erased. So Zeniba is giving her something to help her connect with everything she learned and everything she went through, because once she crosses, she will not be able to consciously remember any of it. This is not a theory. Miyazaki himself confirmed that Chihiro forgets being in the spirit world the moment she and her parents arrive to the car. The source for this information are the film pamphlets that were sold in the theaters during the film's first run in 2001. On the more, Miyazaki raised the possibility that the memory might be able to come back to Chihiro at a later time. So it's not like the memories are gone forever. She might see something and the memories will all come back. The moment Zeniba gives Chihiro the air tie concludes with the arrival of Haku in his dragon form. Zeniba says goodbye to her nephew and states that she will take no face in, which concludes their arc. This lost orphan spirit found a home, someone to take care of him and be a good influence. Having someone else besides Chihiro give them love also cured them of their obsession with her. Later, when Chihiro is flying on Haku's back, she remembers an incident when she lost a pink shoe in Kohaku River and almost drowned trying to retrieve it. When she explains this to Haku, he remembers his identity, that he was once the river spirit of Kohaku River, Nigiyayami Kohakonuchi, and that he lost himself when the river was destroyed in the name of human settlement. This incident made Haku fall into Yubaba's hands. In the already mentioned article Shinto Perspectives in Miyazaki's anime film Spirited Away, the author presents a very curious perspective on Haku's and Chihiro's relationship. He states that what Chihiro might be experiencing in this moment is a genuine, authentic connection with a kami, which in Shintoism is called Shinjin Goitsu, which means God and human become one, which occurs only when one approaches the other with sincerity and a pure heart. This theory is interesting because it frames Haku's and Chihiro's relationship neither as a romance or a friendship, but something entirely different. Arriving to the bathhouse, Chihiro has to pass a final trial before she can return to her world. Yubaba shows her a group of pigs and tells her that she needs to guess which ones are her parents. Chihiro looks at all of them for a brief moment, seems to have an instant of realization, and answers confidently that none of the pigs are her parents. How does she know that? There are quite some possible explanations, but I think the one that holds the most ground is simply she just knows. On any other movie, this will sound extremely stupid, but hear me out. Chihiro was shown to be a sensible child from the beginning of the movie, and even if at a certain point she was afraid she would not recognize her parents, she even had a nightmare about it, she now fully trusts her intuition, because her intuition also made her recognize Haku. Her intuition made her understand that she needed to get No Face out of the bathhouse. Her intuition made her feed the bitter dumpling to both No Face and Haku when they needed it. So after all these events, how could she fail such a simple challenge? She even shows surprise when Yubaba fails to recognize Boh in his mouse form, which proves that these types of things are common sense to her. And by the end of the movie, she is aware of her powers, well, not powers in the magical sense, of course, her intuitive powers, and is completely comfortable embracing them. Since she got the answer right, Yubaba is now forced to let her go, and the whole bathhouse cheers and celebrates. This moment doesn't feel unwarranted because we were shown signs of the workers starting to cherish her. It is really heartwarming to see a whole community celebrating this young girl who broke the chains and is now free, considering that at least some of them would like to live as well, but at least for now are unable to. Maybe they didn't even realize it was possible to leave the bathhouse in the first place, and Chihiro became a sort of inspiration or hope. Haku brings her to the border between the two worlds, and they say their farewells, promising to meet again. Haku warns her to not look back until the tunnel is behind her. When you first saw Spirited Away, this advice maybe felt natural to you. And why is that? It is because it is a theme that is shared by many mythologies from around the world. We have the story of Orpheus and Eurydice from Greek mythology, which is probably the most famous one, but there is also a story in the Bible with a similar connotation. In case you don't know the stories, allow me to make a quick summary for you. In the Greek mythology, Orpheus and Eurydice were very much in love, but one day Eurydice was bitten by a snake, which led to her premature death. Orpheus then embarks on a quest to the underworld to retrieve his wife. They are given a second chance, but Orpheus is given one condition of not looking back until he and Eurydice are back in the surface. However, the moment Orpheus feels the sunlight, he turns around because he wants to hug his wife, and he forgets that she is still behind him, in the darkness of the underworld. So only he was outside of the underworld. She was still inside it. So this separates them forever. As for the story in the Bible, in Genesis 19, during the escape from Sodom, the city of Sodom, Lot's wife turns into a pillar of salt because she looked back when the city was being destroyed, after being told not to by two angels. Even mythologies whose stories fail to include the do not look back rule have other rules which are very similar. In those stories, the protagonist has to resist temptation and control their emotions, whatever those emotions might be. It can be curiosity, distrust, impatience. If the protagonist can do this and follow this one rule that they were given, they are generally rewarded. But if they can't follow the rule, tragic things can happen. In Chihiro's case, she can't look back because she has to overcome her attachment to the spirit world in order to proceed with her life outside of it. It sends a message that everything has to come to an end, and one must advance while keeping their experiences close to their hearts. This is why Chihiro's hair tie keeps sparkling under the sun in these scenes, as a way of reminding us of this. When Chihiro and her parents leave the tunnel and arrive to their car, we are confronted with a scenario that is vastly different from the one at the start of the movie. The car is full of leaves and dust, as the father is quick to point out. The Dojozin statue has lost its faces and now resembles a regular stone. The vegetation dominates the whole place. The grass is tall and vines cover almost the entirety of the wall. And finally, the tunnel that was once flat and covered with red paint is now completely grey and made out of blocks of stone. There are three main theories circulating around that try to justify these changes. I will go from the less believable to the more believable one. The first one states that while Chihiro was trapped in the spirit world, centuries have passed. This theory sparks from a common mythology theme that plays with the idea that the meaning of time can be altered if we are in a different world. In some stories, time goes by quicker in the other world, so once the protagonist returns to their original world, their family and friends are surprised to see them old when just a couple days have passed. But most commonly, time goes by slower in the other world. So the protagonist doesn't age, but comes back to realize they are living in a totally different century, or that their friends and their family are all gone and died a very long time ago. Another story still, time might be not only unpredictable, but also vulnerable to manipulation by powerful spirits. So this theory states that so much time has passed between the start and the end of the movie that all the paint of the tunnel has worn off, burying before our eyes the stones underneath. This would also explain why the vegetation is now so overgrown and wild. However, this theory has many plot holes. At the start of the movie, the father comments that the building is fake, as in it is made of plaster. So even if the red paint had all worn off, there wouldn't be stones underneath. There would be just grey plaster. The tunnel is now a totally different building, not just an aged version of the original one. Not to mention that if that much time has passed, that a building will suffer this amount of destruction, not to mention the completely eroded Dojozin statue, the car would also have a totally different aspect. It wouldn't just be covered with some leaves. The second theory states that Chihiro's perception of the tunnel has changed That is why everything looks so different. At the very start of my analysis, I pointed out that we are seeing the movie through Chihiro's perspective. So this theory states that the scenario changes because at first we are seeing it through the eyes of a child, but at the end we are seeing it through the eyes of an adult. This theory doesn't work simply because Chihiro's parents also see the tunnel as this huge red building at the start, judging by their comments and their curiosity in exploring it. If the tunnel had looked like a regular stone one from the start, why enter it in the first place? Interestingly enough, I think that the only reason why Chihiro's parents don't find it weird that everything around them has changed is because they are too focused on the car, which is a very adult-like behavior when you think about it. The third theory, the one which I think holds most ground, is that the scenario truly changes because the spirit world has closed. Chihiro and her parents just happened to be at the right place at the right time, or at the wrong place at the wrong time, depending on the perspective. And thus they were able to enter the spirit world, which means that if they tried to cross the tunnel again, they would not enter the spirit world a second time, they would just find themselves at the other side of the tunnel, still inside the forest. The disappearance of the faces on the Dojojin statue also seemed to allude to that. Dojojin are the protectors of travelers, just as I said on I think it was the part 1 of the review. And the fact that these spirits are gone indicates that Chihiro's journey has come to an end. Before I bid my farewell, I will quickly go through some opinions about some other theories I saw. The first one is a really popular one. Toshio Okada believes Haku to be Chihiro's older brother, who died while saving her from drowning in the Kuaku River, only then having become the guardian of that river. I do not agree with this theory. I just wanted to let you know that it exists, and I see that a lot of people also don't like this theory, but I never actually saw anyone explaining why the theory isn't really strong, so I will probably be the first one to do so. For starters, this would undermine the moment Haku discovers his identity, for he would have had a name before turning into a river spirit, and that name certainly wouldn't be Nigayami Koakonuchi. What's more, since Chihiro remembers riding Haku in his dragon form, this would mean that she would have had to fall into the river, her brother would have had to try to save her, then drown before her, be turned into the river spirit, and once in his dragon form, finally save her. So it's a really weird timeline, isn't it? And finally, there is a line that Haku says, which is, "I also remember how you fell into me as a child," which is a good counter-argument for this. There is more, but I do not want to keep going on forever. This theory is a very long one. The arguments for this theory, they are multiple, and I could be debunking one by one, but it will take a lot of time. So if you're interested in that, you can tell in the comments. But for now, these counter-arguments, I think these counter-arguments are enough explanation of why I don't like this theory. Some fans also speculate that Haku is torn to pieces by Yubaba after Chihiro exits the spirit world, and the glitter shining on Chihiro's hair tie are his tears. I don't even know how this theory came to be, because for starters, Haku was never involved in the confection of the hair tie, and there is also no reason to believe he cannot get free from Yubaba's contract now that he remembers his identity. The movie tried to bring home several times the importance of staying true to oneself, so it wouldn't spoil the message at the very last moment by implying that this is only true for Chihiro but nobody else. Last but not least, there is also the theory that Chihiro died in a car crash at the start of the movie, and all that happens next is her journey through the purgatory. To talk about this theory would imply going over the movie all over again, something I will obviously not do, so you will have to look for it yourself if you're interested. This theory is not as popular as the broader one, so it might take a little bit of digging to find, but it's doable. If you're interested, you can just look it up. If I miss some very important fan theory, just hit me up in the comments below. They are fun, even if some can be a bit crazy. And at the end of the day, it is important to be open to the interpretations of other people and their opinions. I thank you for watching all of this, and I hope to see you in the next review. I still don't know what the next review will be about. I'm thinking about either House Moving Castle, Muchichi, or Golden Kamui. I really like very much the three of them, but I will let you know. For now, I will be posting some Japanese lessons, and after that I will talk a little bit about history, about the Jomon period. Only then I will focus on the reviews again. Again, if you want the references, just look for them in the blog. They will be all in part 4. I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.